can bear with me. Hey, Mark.
How are you? Made it.
It's great to see you. I'm glad we got this working. I'm going to go ahead and give you a quick introduction, and we'll just jump into this. So, uh, Mark is a native Zimbabwean. His wildlife career started back in 1979 when he became a ranger for the Department of National Parks and Wildlife Management. He was working in Wangi National Park and Mana Pools, which are two of Zimbabwe's premier wildlife parks. He later earned a degree in zoology and botany at Rhodes University in South Africa before working for Zimbabwe's Forestry Commission. As a provincial wildlife officer, Butch was responsible for all of the wildlife within nearly 2 million acres of forests bordering Wangi and Vic Falls. While undertaking this enormous task, he quickly discovered how essential the local people's support was to safeguarding wildlife and developed programs that engaged the local people and benefited the natural ecosystems. He left the commission and developed these initiatives further from the other side of the fence in safari tourism. Butch qualified as a Zimbabwean pro guide in 1986 and served as an examiner for aspiring pro guides from 1990 to 92. In 1995, he opened several lodges and safari camps in Zimbabwe on communal land and in partnership with local communities. Today, the Imvelo portfolio in Wangi includes 4 safari lodges and camps and the Elephant Express game viewing train. Since 2012, the Imvelo Trust has sourced and invested well over $3 million into community-based social services, including water, education, and healthcare programs for those living on the edge of Wangi. Butch was honored with the 2014 Ethical Travel Award by the Guardian newspaper. And in 2018, Imvelo's community and conservation work was awarded a $20,000 grant by the Adventure Travel Conservation Fund to continue his work on water resource development in and around Wangi. Butch's lifelong passion for Wangi, its elephants, wildlife, and communities forms the cornerstone of Imvelo Safari Lodge's ethos and mission today. I'm exceedingly pleased to have you with us today, Mark, Managing Director of Imvelo Safari Lodges. And without further ado, I just kind of want to jump right in and say, how has this last year been? What's been the impact of COVID, both on you, the communities, and wildlife?
Well, first off, thanks for that introduction, Chris. I may be a little bit over the top, but thanks very much. And good evening to all of you out there listening. Excuse me. Yeah, look, the past year has been incredibly difficult for everybody in the tourism business. And likewise here in Africa, and likewise here in Zimbabwe. You know, we were almost totally dependent on tourism in our part of Zimbabwe, around Wangi Park. There's not much else going on there, not much manufacturing, small coal mine, but that's it. And so when the rug got pulled with the COVID and the tourism travel, we got severely knocked. But there's a lot of, I'm always a glass half full kind of a guy. And there's a lot of good stuff that has happened too, and I'm real proud of some of that. In that we, and when I say we, I mean not just our company, but all of our friends, all of our family, all of our guests, all of our partners, still rallied together to try and keep the wildlife and the community taken care of. You know, and I know during 2020, our numbers for philanthropic, social work and conservation work were still 75 or 80% of what they were during 2019, and that's just a fantastic affirmation of this kind of brotherhood we have, you know, within the safari world. You know, both the travelers and the industry professionals such as yourself and myself. You know, it was really warming.
Good, definitely, yeah, and hopefully, I mean, it seems like people are starting to think about traveling again. It sounds like you might have had, you know, some guests already coming through over there. So what's it like for travelers coming to Zimbabwe right now? What's it like getting in, moving around, and being in the country right now?
Yeah, Chris, this is probably one of the most exciting things we're seeing. Is, you know, there was this incredible trepidation about how we would learn to travel again, how we'd learn to go on safari. But actually, often the best way to do it is to get in the water and start swimming. And what we managed to do through last year, through kind of 2020, was we had a lot of local Zimbos came and traveled with us. A lot of guys from Moraway and Moraway, a lot of people who previously perhaps would have found it difficult to come to remote high-value concessions in places like Moraway were suddenly able to come and visit us. And that was a great way for us to practice and train staff, getting our COVID protocols figured out. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's no rocket science here. It's all just sensible stuff, you know, social distancing, covering your face, washing your hands frequently, being careful about cleaning surfaces, regularly temperature testing, regular monitoring of people around you, keeping groups apart. We've got a party amongst the local, we had a party from Harare come and visit, and then another party from Moraway. Hey, we can still chit chat, but we stay on opposite sides of the dining room, you know, and we go opposite sides of the campfire and just go game drive on different vehicles. So not that complicated. You know, we spent a lot of time dealing with complicated diseases, you know, malaria. You know, we all sleep under mosquito nets all the time. We're all taking prophylaxis. So we're used to dealing with problematic health issues. So that was amazing to us. And then as the international travelers started to travel again, we had a couple of groups came at the tail end of last year, groups from America. We had a couple of groups from Europe this year. And all of them said how amazed they were about how easy it was to travel. You know, the airlines have got it figured out now, you know, and you follow what you're supposed to do. If you need a PCR test, the Zimbabwe requirements right now are for PCR test 48 hours before you depart. So if you're leaving out of the States, make sure you've got a clear PCR certificate before you leave. Whether you're vaccinated or not, you're still going to get a PCR test. And then once you're on the planes, you're going to arrive here. And assuming you don't have some obvious issues with temperature and that kind of thing, you're clear to go. And the people who are manning the airports are qualified medical staff. You know, they can tell the difference between a person who's got a serious ailment, a serious illness versus the average thing. So we're not having travelers being thrown into quarantine centers for no reason. It hasn't happened. It's just not happening. And all of our travelers coming through have been amazed about how easy it was to travel. But again, you've got to be sensible, you know, keep your face covered, wash your hands, be careful about how you do things. And then once you get out of the airport at Victoria Falls or even Harare, we've had people coming through, you head off to Wangi National Park, and more or less you're in an environment that's pretty hostile to COVID, you know, wide open spaces, it's dry, it's warm in the daytime. We don't have large numbers of people. You go to places like Johannesburg, the nearest person to you is going to be 50 miles away. Never mind, you know, it's a heck of a long way for a virus to travel. So that's what's been exciting. And what I've also enjoyed is the international travelers we have had have all been super excited about being able to get out again. A lot of people coming out of the cities of both Western Europe and North America, and all of them have said, oh man, it's so great to be out again. It's so great to be feel free again, to be out in the open and enjoy the sunshine and get in an open vehicle and have fresh air and just relax, you know.
Totally. I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that too. I mean,
I'm looking forward to the next few months.
Totally. And I'm seeing that too. Guests are, you know, super, super eager to travel anywhere. They don't even care. Like, they just want to go and get out there. And, you know, I tell them that, look, social distancing on safari was cool before it was cool. You know, we've been, you know, it's all outdoor activities. You're out in the wild, you're, you know, in the fresh air, as you said, every day. You're eating dinner under the stars each night. So, you know, traveling in a post-COVID world, safari makes a lot of sense. So how has the wildlife been? I mean, it's been almost a year since they've seen traveler numbers. Are they, you know, what's been going on with the wildlife?
Yeah, you know, that's also heartening, you know, is because we're still going out. Obviously, we haven't got the same numbers, but we've got Zimbos coming through camp regularly. Most of it's on weekends, all of that stuff. So we're getting out and taking the game drives out. But what is cool is because we're still doing all of our conservation and community work, we're all still driving around. So we're going down, we're fixing water holes, we're going down and deploying law enforcement patrols. We're going down the villages and dropping off food, dropping off ration packs. So we're getting around. Of course, when any of us knock off at 5 p.m., we get in the Land Rover and go for a drive and go look for the cheetah and go look for the lion. So they're all still there and they're flourishing. And I can honestly say is that on our side of Wangi, is poaching numbers are actually down during 2020 compared to what they were in 2019. And a lot of that's just because a lot of us had a lot more free time on our hands, so we were all running around keeping an eye on things. And thankfully, we could still look after our community, so there wasn't People were still getting fed, kids were still getting lunch meals and stuff like that. So things are still working. The wildlife's great. We've got Cindy, our favorite cheetah, and on the Bomani concession. We saw her last weekend. We had some Zimbabwean wedding at camp, and Cindy was there with her 4 new cubs. As you saw the pictures, 400 yards from camp, they killed a young female reedbuck, unfortunately for the reedbuck, but the cubs got a great feed. They're waddling around looking like a hippo, you know?
Yeah,
so,
super cute.
Great. It's looking good.
Great, yeah, I saw pictures of those cubs, man. They're super cute. What's your favorite baby animal? What do you think's the cutest over there? I mean, baby cheetahs are pretty cute, but
first is baby elephant, second is baby elephant, and third is baby elephant. They're cool. They are cool. There's no doubt about it. You know, you have so much fun watching them. You know, when they're real young up, they really don't know how to use their trunks for the first 2 or 3 months. And that to me is just the cutest thing. You know, when you get a breeding herd come marching down to the waterhole, and mom and grandma and the aunties all stick their trunks in the water and start drinking. And the brand new junior comes along and he puts his trunk in there and he's splashing around like a swizzle stick because he still hasn't figured out how to suck up water. It's awfully hard not to find anything cuter than that.
Totally.
Anyway, that'd be my choice.
Yeah, great. So give me some of the updates. I mean, it sounds like what's new with the camps. I saw some updates from the Cobras, the anti-poaching unit. What's new and exciting that's coming up for you guys over there?
Yeah, look, from my point of view, where we are, probably one of the most exciting initiatives that we've had for years has been our local communities around Ngamo and Ganyana village have decided to set up wildlife sanctuaries on the community land. Okay, outside of the park, the border of the park, they're saying, hey, we want to move our cattle back and let's set aside land for wildlife, you know? And that's been a huge paradigm shift from where we were 20 years ago, you know? So it's really exciting. But what's happened during last year and certainly the first part of this year is we've had a lot of free spare time on our hands, and fortunately the resources have been made available to us, so we've been able to get on with it, and we've taken huge strides forward. We've got the Villa Ngamo Wildlife Sanctuary. It's supposed to be 100%, 110% operational as of the 1st of June.
Wow.
So we're very, very close now. We're putting the final finishing touches on some electric fencing, but we've been able to do a lot of time training up Cobra's Community Wildlife Protection Unit. And that's taken a lot of work. What we said right from the beginning was we didn't want to hire ex-law enforcement guys, ex-cops, ex-policemen, ex-game department guys. What we were going to do was go to the villages, find the best and the brightest from the young people coming out of the high schools, and we're going to hire them and train them, you know, and it's taken a lot of work. But man, they've turned into a fantastic group of young people. They're excited, they're motivated, they're so proud, and they're keen and they're fit. They run like crazy. One of the fun things we had 2 weekends ago was we had a Cobras run. So we had a group of runners from Moraway, which is our provincial capital in our part of the world, that came out and they did a run. And they went running across the Ngamo Plains with the Cobras. For the Cobras, it was a bit of a doddle. They only had to run 30 kilometers. But it was a super, super run out in the open, outdoors, water lilies running past the hippos. And of course, Ndebele people have got their roots amongst the Zulus from South Africa. And of course, the legend is Shaka Zimpies and later Zimpies Zimpies ran across Africa singing and chanting songs so they could run and run forever. And there's nothing cooler than running along with the Cobras while they chant some of their old Ndebele war songs, you know, and it's just incredibly exciting. And of course, these young guys are really proud to show off their stuff, you know. So I'm real proud, and they spend a lot of time with conservation amongst the communities, going to the schools, talking to the kids, just going down on a Sunday afternoon playing soccer with everybody, and they're the rock stars, they're the legends, you know. And it's so great to see the young people looking up to them and aspiring to go into conservation, you know, as opposed to wanting to swim across the Limpopo River and go and work in South Africa, you know?
Totally.
So I'm really excited about what we have managed to achieve during the tourism downtour. Of course, we're all a lot poorer, and the bank managers are a little bit less happy with us, but we'll figure it out, you know.
Yeah, we'll rebound. I'm pretty sure that light at the end of the tunnel is no longer a train; that it is actually, you know, a positive thing coming. The Cobras are amazing. I mean, one of the highlights of my last visit to Zimbabwe, and I think you remember this, is when we were driving down towards, I think it was Mfagazan, and they were, you radioed ahead and told them that there was a truck full of poachers coming, but it wasn't poachers, it was us. And sure enough, they had hidden and, jumped out at us. It was, it definitely got our hearts racing, but it was a good training exercise for the Cobras, trying to apprehend us poachers. But it was just wonderful to get a chance to meet them. I mean, you and those guys are literally on the front lines of conservation there, and trying to protect wildlife while also contributing to community development. And that is, it's amazing work that you're doing. Butch, what do you think is the future? I mean, is the future bright? Have things improved over time within the realm of conservation? Like, what's next? What does the future hold for the conservation of wildlife in Zimbabwe?
Yeah, again, Chris, I'm a glass half full guy. I believe things are better now than they've ever been. I know tourism's coming back. Okay, nobody knows when it's coming back, but we know in the next three months, 6 weeks, 2 years, whatever that timeline is, people are going to come back and travel, and they want to see wildlife, they want to see Africa. And what's exciting too, I believe, is that I think we're going to get more people want to go on safari. They understand the difference about getting into the wide open spaces, getting into places where there are no other people, where you just socially distanced anyway, before it became the kind of catchphrase it is now. So that's exciting in the future. And what's really exciting to me is watching the young people. We've got young kids coming out of school, and like I say, what they aspire to now is not going down to go and find a job in Johannesburg in South Africa. They want to be cobras. They want to be game guides. All the guys, Worcester and Holmes and Eric and all of them, they've all been on half pay, quarter pay, but they're still there. They're just waiting. They're getting ready. And they call me all the time, Mr. Butcher, how many bookings this month? I say, I got only a few, but I got a little bit of work coming, but they're there, they're ready, and they're excited, they're looking forward to it. And all these initiatives that got started pre-COVID, that have now got momentum, the wildlife sanctuaries, all those kind of things that kind of rolling now. So I'm very excited about the future. I really believe where we're at now, where a lot of the talk at the beginning of 2020, when things that first quarter, March, April last year was, oh my gosh, there's no tourism, the poachers are going to wipe everything out, oh man. And of course, we're all worried about it, but anybody who was prepared and recognized the problem, we got our acts together and we took care of what needed to be taken care of, and it didn't happen. And I know Africa's ready for people now, and I know certainly Zimbabwe is, certainly Wanga National Park is ready for people right now. It's just everybody's ready for it. Amongst the communities, we had some of our guests that's still going and doing community visits, and that's one of our favorite things that we used to do pre-COVID. And what we've done is we kind of re-engineered how we're going to do it. So how do we walk to school with the kids? We don't all run along with them, all of them holding hands and jumping on our laps, but you can still walk to school with kids and socially distance, keep a mask on, and you can still have a chit chat and have a good time. And it's sensible and it's safe and it's still a fun experience. Different to what we used to do, but it's still a damn fun experience. And when we get to the schools, we don't necessarily want to get in a crowded classroom with the kids, because who knows what diseases travelers may have brought from overseas. They may be carrying COVID. We don't want to spread it amongst the local community. So stay outdoors, keep your mask on, stay out in the sunshine in the open, breezy air, and let's chit chat, and let's learn about what they do and hear what they do. So, and we've got to figure it out. I'm perfectly comfortable that we have it figured out and we can go forward and still have a lot of fun experiences.
Good.
So I'm looking forward to the future, Chris. I really am.
Good, excellent. I mean, that's good to hear. I mean, I feel like everyone in the travel world, we're all kind of eternal optimists, because we just believe in the power of travel to be a good thing. And it's almost a basic human need that we just have this desire to see what's over the next hill and to go and explore. And I think safaris are the epitome of that. You never know what you're going to see, each day when you're out there. And so, one of the questions that came in is, what has been one of the, scariest or closest encounters that you've had with wildlife that, gave you a little fright out there? Maybe a story from back in the wild days when you were just out on foot on patrol.
There's been a lot. Maybe one of the fun ones when I was a young ranger in Mana. I had a very cheap camera. I wasn't making a heck of a lot of money. It didn't have a lens on it. And I remember one day we were patrolling up an elephant path, and about 100 yards ahead or more, I saw a couple of honey badgers coming down the path towards me. But of course, they were kind of low to the ground. They hadn't seen us. So I told the guys, hey, let's just kind of duck behind this tree. I ducked behind the tree, and they came down the path, the walls got closer, it was perfect because I had no lens. And I mean, they got about a meter or so from us, and I popped my head up on the side of the tree, and I got like the best honey badger picture you could have got. The two of them looking up at me, and because immediately they saw me, they literally lost it, and opened their mouth, and they came for me. And you kind of trot away. They got pretty short legs, I had longer legs than honey badger, and that's fine. I started around. But what unnerved me right from the beginning was I had standing astride the elephant path, so I'd get down low to the height of the picture. And of course, as I turned and run, the folk legend is how honey badgers overpower lions and things as they go for the genitalia, you know. And of course, this is the thing that runs through your mind when you've got two honey badgers, not one, but two honey badgers yapping at your heels, you know. And I remember getting a little bit concerned. We ran around one tree, I ran around another tree. These guys stayed with me. They were not going in. Of course, the guys I was on patrol with, they thought it was the funniest thing they'd seen. It was like Laurel and Hardy, you know, and they were screaming with laughter, literally screaming with laughter. And I was shouting, do something, do something. These honey badgers wouldn't leave me alone. And we were used to black rhino back in those days. So black rhino often give us a hard time. We always go up a tree. That was the drill. So I thought, okay, well, I better get up a tree. And as I started to climb up a tree, I realized, of course, honey badgers love to climb trees, and I've got the big claws. And I was going up the tree, but there was no way to go. I couldn't go back down, so I just had to go higher and higher. And it was anxious moments. Like I said, I don't know if they were going to kill me, but they were certainly going to leave me with an issue. Anyway,
how long were you in the tree for?
Eventually, finally, under threat of death, the rest of my guys came across with sticks and stuff, and they chased the honey badgers off. But I was up that tree maybe for several minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was climbing higher and higher. I was having issues. Honey badgers don't climb like a leopard, new leopard or something much worse. But they were making their way up towards me.
They were motivated. That's great.
They told that story to their grandchildren too, about the day they chased the game ranger up a tree.
The legend. It's not every day you get to tree a legend. So I saw some of your posts earlier this year. It looks like, you know, the past couple of years have been pretty hard for Zim drought-wise. Water has really been an issue. I know your school feeding program is really helping to fill that gap for those kids, you know, the past few years. But your pictures from this year, it was like a different country. I couldn't believe the amount of greenery. So what does that mean for the locals to have a good rainy season this year?
Yeah, Chris, this has been part of this incredible upbeat story that we've got too. We had 2 years of some of the worst droughts in living memory. There was talk last year about whether it was the worst drought ever recorded, you know, since we started recording rainfall, obviously. And on the back of that, this last rainy season kicked off in kind of October, November, and ran through to March, where we've had record rainfalls. The previous 2 years, we'd had less than 10 inches of rain in 2 years, whereas this year we had 45 inches of rain. So we had 4 to 5 times the rainfall in 1 year we'd had in the previous 2 years. So that meant all kinds of cool things. Apart from wonderful crops, it's been literally a bumper harvest. But one of the things that has happened was we thought with all these great crops in the fields amongst our community that the elephant crop rating would go through the roof. But in fact, again, the exact opposite happened. There's so much food and water out there, the elephants didn't even come. There was probably less crop rating going on this year than I've ever seen in my life, even though it was the best crop yet. So it's been a bumper year for everybody.
Good.
And of course, all the other fun things that are going on the Bomani concession, got all that water. We got the canoes out, and we've been doing canoeing safaris at Wangi, you know. And I mean, who could ask for something better? What a pleasure.
I know. I can't even imagine that, because it's just all plains out there. And, you know, whenever I've been there, the water holes are, you know, there's usually a little bit of water, but certainly not enough for a canoe. So it's hard to imagine.
Yeah. And what's cool too now is with all this rain is all of the water tables being built back up. So straight away, a lot of the wells that we're struggling to get water out, and it's the wells that are both supplying water for people and for wildlife. I mean, every well we're measuring now with our piece of string and our lead weights in a complicated Zimbabwe fashion. We've got more water in those holes than we've had than we've seen for ages. So there's been a great replenishment not only of all life, but of this water table is so essential for life going forward. You know? So it's exciting times.
That's good stuff. That's really, I mean, happy days, right? I mean, that's great stuff to hear.
It's like happy days.
And looking ahead, I mean, I know that during the good times you always appreciate them, but as any good African knows, you always have to have a plan, and you always want to be looking ahead. And knowing in Zimbabwe that there's not only a dry season coming, but there's probably also another drought coming down the road. What's next on tap for water resources for elephants and for villages? I know that you've solarized and hybridized some of the water points and the water wells in the park, and your team has also put in some new water resources and solar pumps for communities. So what's next? What are the next communities, and what are your next water projects?
Yeah, undoubtedly, it should continue on the successes that we have got. Those solar hybrid watering points for the wildlife. To me, they are the only thing we can do to improve them further with any technology we have is just tweak them a little bit. But they work well. We're very happy with them. They're efficient. They're relatively clean. And then the next big thing comes with solarizing community water supplies. And one of the most exciting projects that comes out of our wildlife sanctuary thing is we're going to be generating revenue from the communities, from the wildlife sanctuaries on their land. And one of the big things we want to do with that is to develop water resources within the subsistence farming community, where we can pump water to the surface with solar, using efficient drip irrigation, grow more food using less land, and then use the power of the solar to electrify protection around those fields, so that we're not to minimize human-wildlife conflict, create food security, and improve the community's health and nourishment. And that's the way forward. We can see it. We're doing some experimental ones right now, and it's easy to see about what we need to be doing. So when the next drought comes, we can weather it with minimum impact, because as you say, there is another drought coming.
Totally. Yeah. And it's always, it's tough to stay in that mindset. It's, it's not a negative mindset. It's more of a just practical mindset, right? Of trying to think ahead, trying to stay 2 steps ahead. Yes. Those community conservancies, I saw firsthand how well those work in Namibia for
Yes.
some of their rhino conservation. Have you consulted with Namibia about how it's working there and lessons learned?
Absolutely. And I always harken back again. I'm an old timer, but we started community-based tourism before the Namibians. Mm-hmm. But I remember when we had some Namibian and Botswana delegations came down to see what we were doing in the early 1990s. And what was really cool was we could sit down with them and say, hey, these are the mistakes we made. Don't make these mistakes. And I know a lot of the successes in Namibia is because they saw how we had set up. A lot of that was how we set it up legally, the legislative frameworks. They tweaked it and they got it a little bit better, where they got appropriate authority down to a lower level. So when they set it up and they got it started off with a better footing. And what they've done with the desert black rhino there is fantastic. And that really is, I believe, what the future holds for rhino conservation. Is we've got to get the communities involved with it. Now the communities guard their own rhino, and woe betide anybody who wants to take their rhino from them, as opposed to rhino being a privilege of wealthy, essentially what are white Africans often.
Totally, yeah. As things start to open back up, I think I just saw a recent news story about Vic Falls and the vaccination rates there. Yes. It's always difficult for us in the States to kind of untangle the news that we get out of Africa, but how have vaccinations been going? How's Vic Falls doing as a town?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first things that came out was the government sensibly said, to get tourism restarted, we need to prioritize it. And obviously everybody's asking for it, but Victoria Falls town, they said they wanted the whole town vaccinated. And there's a full-scale vaccination gone out, and I believe just about 90% of Vic Falls population is vaccinated. But what I can say, because I know I live there, is Wayne Park is vaccinated now. Wow. We've had we had our first set of vaccinations. All the safari companies, all the park staff, all the anti-poaching units, the community wildlife protection unit, Cobras, all came in and got their jabs. And we actually last week had our second jabs. So we all went through it, and it all looks like it's kind of working very well, you know. Having said that, even with our vaccinations, we're still being careful. We still follow the protocols. Keep your mask on when you're around people. Wash your hands regularly. You don't need to talk in anybody's face. You know? Spread out. I believe we are as ready as you can be anyway. And I think it's real cool. You might understand it better, but CDC just took Zimbabwe up to a level 2 category because they believe that we're on top of it, you know. So I think travelers can feel safe that when they fly in, they're going to have to do their PCR test on the way in. When they get into camp, we're going to temperature check everybody regularly, and we're going to ask people to be sensible about their use of their face mask and be sensible about how we are around other people. But I believe we can manage this thing. I believe we can. Touch wood. I think, you know, be careful, but I think we just need to be sensible.
Yeah, for sure. No, and you know, look, I'm excited. We've got a trip that we're working on trying to get guests on for this October. So anyone out there in internet land, if you want to join us, and you know, Butch and I will be kind of co-leading the safari. We've got some other great guides there. You know, you'll get a chance to see firsthand these community projects that Butch is talking about. The wildlife is absolutely gangbusters, and for elephant lovers, I mean, I don't think that there is a better elephant show on the continent than the encounters that you can have in Wangi National Park. So if you're vaccinated and you're ready to travel, please get in touch with me and get in touch with us, and you know, we'll go have a really good time over there in Zimbabwe in October. So I'm looking forward to it. Butch, thank you so much for your time. Do you have any parting thoughts for your American audience here?
Look, the only thing is I'm looking forward to seeing you all back over here. The camps are ready, the tents are ready, the staff are ready, communities are ready, and the elephants are waiting for you. Wangi's waiting. So any of you who can't get on Chris's trip in October, be sure you're here in September, because it's going to be an awesome year.
Totally.
Thanks,
yeah.
And thank you so much for your time, Chris.
Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it. Stay well over there, and yeah, watch out for those honey badgers, hey. All right, we're gonna end the recording now, and yeah, thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.